I'm sure you guys have already seen all the headlines out of 49ers training camp. Brock Purdy threw 3 interceptions. The sky is falling. Well, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about those 3 interceptions. We're going to talk about everything that we saw at 49ers training camp today. First day of pads, and honestly, there were some good things to come out of camp, even though a lot of the focus might be right now fully on Brock Purdy. There are plenty of other things to talk about, but we're going to break down the picks. We're going to break down also who else had a good day as first day of pads kicked off and provide very important context into it all because the 49ers offense is essentially moving like they have one arm tied behind their back currently. And we will see how that will translate into the season. But you guys already know what to do. Drop an SDS in the chat. Smash that like button. We're going to talk about training camp and everything that we saw today right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. What is going on, everybody? Hopefully, you guys are having a phenomenal Monday. It was the first day of padded practice down in Santa Clara. So, we are going to be talking about everything that went down on the field, off the field, all the good things, but good to see the squad in the building as we get ready to go. Shout out the SDS as always. Strawberry says, be prepared in the media. Cute quarterback controversy incoming. Keep the face said. Brad is JD. Yeah, what's good, my guy? Says, good to meet you at camp on Friday, my dude. Hey, shout out to a lot of you guys, man. I've been meeting a lot of SDS out at training camp, man. You guys making me feel really cool, man. I appreciate everyone. What's good, and it's always a great time when we get to meet the SDS. Justin, I know what he's here for. He's ready for the Jordan Mason segment, which he will get his own segment of today's show because Jordan Mason stonks to the moon, potentially. We'll talk about it here today, but shout out to SDS. As always, smash that like button if you haven't already. Obviously, the big storyline out of 49ers training camp today is Brock Purdy's 3 interceptions, and we will talk about that, of course. But I do kind of want to show some of the vibes from 49ers training camp today as practice began, get a look at some of the stuff that went down prior to practice, and then we can go from there. So today was the first day of pads, which means it was the first day of pads for a lot of the rookies as well, like Dominic Puni. So this is Dominic Puni rocking the number 77 in pads for the very first time. I'm not going to lie. He's really giving the Mike Aiyuk vibes, quite frankly. I mean, the fact that he is Polynesian on top of it is just another tip of the cap, but rocking the 77 as Mike Aiyuk used to wear as well, just really giving those vibes. And so it was a big day at practice for Puni because he was your starting right guard for the entirety of training camp because there's no Spencer Burford, there's no Jonathan Feliciano, and there is no Jake Brendel. So this is actually turning into a bit of a story that I was thinking about this on the drive home. I was like, you know what? The 49ers offensive line early on kind of is giving me 2021 cornerback vibes from training camp because when we were in 2021, I think that was Ambry Thomas and Diamador Lenore's rookie season. I think that was the year we like brought in Haha Clinton Dix for a cup of tea. That was the year we brought in Drake Kirkpatrick. That was the year that we brought in my favorite player of all time. He's my favorite player, so much so that his name is absolutely escaping me, Josh Norman. Just with how we've seen the 49ers offensive line in totality up until this point, it's very patchy. It's the patchwork offensive line that we've seen throughout the entirety of training camp because of let's see, 1, 2, 3, potentially 4 starters being down. So the biggest thing with the 49ers offensive line that you're seeing right now and all these reports that we're getting, Brock Purdy's running with these third and fourth string centers, all things considered. Not only that, but you're working with a rookie guard at first string who's just getting his feet wet in the league, and you're trying to figure out who he is and what he's capable of. And on top of that, no Trent Williams, as we know. So right now, the 49ers offensive line, it can't even be fully judged necessarily because one, today was the first day of pads. And then on top of that, our starters aren't even practicing. So that is a really important part of this context. However, I will say, while we are on the topic of offensive line, there were moments earlier on where you could see, okay, the pads being on are a benefit to this group. You could see there were opportunities where there were more consistent clean pockets. The first 2 runs of the day in team period were solid runs. You had a Jordan Mason run off looked like he shot through the backside B gap, and he was able to rip off a solid chunk run. And then right after that, you had Eli Mitchell run up the middle. So it felt like the running game had a little bit more breathing room. It felt like we had some good pockets at time, to the point where we had multiple coverage sacks, I would say, or multiple coverages that force the offense to deviate off the plan. So, but there were still moments where Brock had time. There wasn't anywhere to go with the ball. So that was a part of the issues. And we'll get to Jordan Mason and the Elijah Mitchell thing because that's its own story in of itself. But as it stands right now in regards to the offensive line, I will say first impression of Dominic Puni in pads really was good. It wasn't great. It wasn't like Dominic came out here and dominated. But the thing is, you could see the things that we saw on tape from Puni at Kansas was that he was a quality pass blocker. And there were multiple opportunities for Puni where he did give up a sack, but he, for the most part, was able to hold his own. You weren't getting a ton of interior pressure from that right side. You were getting a lot of the tackles kind of collapsing the pocket. You had Yetur Gross-Matos out there pushing the pocket on Jalen Moore a couple times. So I would say, considering this is Dominic Puni's first padded practice in the NFL, and I want to make it abundantly clear, offensive line has got to be the hardest transition from college to the pros out of any position. I really don't think it's up for debate. And so when you see Dominic have a decent day, it wasn't a great day, but a decent day, that is something to build on. That's something at baseline where you can say, okay, we have something here to be optimistic of. Now let's see what he looks like with the starting center. Let's see what he looks like, when Trent Williams is also on the roster. Let's see what we look like in this offense when Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Aiyuk are practicing. So I think that is a massive, massive part of the context of today was you're missing weapons on the offensive side of the ball. So little bit of a asterisk next to the, I would say, offensive performance, but that doesn't take away from the defense. And I want to make that abundantly clear. The defense balled today. The defense has been playing really well, and they continue to play well. And I think you have to give some early credit to what this new staff, and again, it's predominantly the same staff, but Nick Sorensen and DC, and then Brandon Staley, who seems to be kind of a cornerbacks coach. It seems to be the role that he's taking. Um, it looks improved early on, so that's a good sign. I do want to talk about this particular subject, so I'll give you my opinion on this as well once we get to it. But so far a lot has been about guys that weren't at practice. Let's talk about someone who was at practice. This guy, Ricky Pearsall, made his debut at 49ers training camp after being activated off the NFI list after been dealing with a hamstring injury. So not only was Pearsall back, but Bosa was out. And so we got a good look at Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave, and Yetur Gross-Matos. YGM continues to make me feel better about consistently kind of talking him up in the offseason. So Yetur Gross-Matos has continuously done a solid job. And I'm sorry, this isn't going to be a time for Chiefs fans who want to come in and start talking crazy. We don't got time for that. So we're going to keep it pushing. But I'm excited with what I've seen from all the guys up front. And my line of sight wasn't ideal, but I do believe it was Javon Hargrave who was the one who beat Dominic Pooney. But hey, that's not bad. So we got to see Ricky Pearsall out there. He was returning kicks, and we got to see him in individual drills. He was making some nice catches, running some crisp looking routes against air. But the 49ers clearly have a plan for Ricky, and their plan wasn't to put him in to the team period, at least for today. So I didn't see Ricky Pearsall take any reps with any first, second, or third string. So I would imagine this is a bit of a ramp up for Ricky Pearsall. They're just going to ease him into action. And again, I think a big part of today is just we don't have all our guys out there. You know what I'm saying? So I want to make that just like abundantly clear when you hear people trying to give definitive evaluations on what this team is or what we're seeing. A lot of it's still up for evaluation. We still have a lot of things that we haven't seen. We still have a lot of players that we haven't seen on the field at the same time together. So that's a big part of the context of 49ers training camp. But what was really cool was to see not only did Ricky, after practice, go out and work with the wide receivers and the quarterback. So this is actually on this video that you're seeing on the screen. This is Ricky Pearsall's second little after practice session. Went and worked with, I think it was Tanner Mordecai. I think you had Tariq Owens. I think Malik. I'm blanking on his name. We just signed him, the wide receiver. We just signed him. But they were like working off to the side. They were doing their like running through plays, kind of dry runs and stuff like that. And then when they were done with that, Ricky came over with the DBs and asked the DBs if he could get some work. And so they were just kind of running routes, working releases, doing all this stuff. And I think this is a good sign for a young player. And what we've heard about Ricky is that you have to tell this guy to stop working. And so far at the first day of training camp, seeing him, spend the most time out of any of the wide receivers trying to get some work in. Again, I think he's just excited to get out there, and I really am looking forward to it. Quick question: Strawberry says, has Mordecai gotten any team reps? No, Mordecai has gotten no team reps, and I don't know how confident the 49ers are in Tanner Mordecai, considering the fact that they brought in a quarterback, I think 2 days ago for a tryout. So I'm wondering if Mordecai's having difficulty grasping the offense or what have you, but we have not seen anything. I have not seen anything from Tanner Mordecai. I can't even tell you what he looks like out there because haven't seen it. So we don't know. Um, One of the cool things to happen after practice was today wasn't a big day from a autograph perspective, but all the fans were chanting for Kittle, and he was just vibing and chilling with his wife. And then they had Trent Taylor and his wife, and then Ricky Pearsall came over and like introduced himself. And the fans were just yelling, Kittle, Kittle. And after like 15 minutes, look, you can see there's no one on the practice field. So everyone was gone, and he ran his tail all the way across the field to get these autographs done. And again, man, it's just like these things are cool, in my opinion. Like, football's more than just what happens between the white lines, and this is an example of it. And I think it's a cool situation. But we also have another situation as we continue to work through some of our training camp updates. Drake Jackson will be out for training camp. And again, it appears that knee injury was way more serious than I anticipated. So I didn't realize how like substantial that injury was until Drake Jackson had posted some photos of it on his Instagram, and you're just like, you see the scar going right down the center of his knee, and you're just like, oh boy, he that knee was a little bit more messed up than I even thought it was. And it sounds like Drake is going to be a slow ramp up on the season, because if he misses training camp and he doesn't participate in preseason, man, that's going to be a tough situation for Drake Jackson, who's heading into year 3. And we understand, the NFL, they'll move off you. I would say the 49ers actually hold on to guys a little bit longer in some instances, but this feels like a big year for Drake and just everything else that has been going down. So, all right, let's now get a little bit more granular into some of the takeaways from training camp today. We talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but I want to talk about it again, especially if Justin's around, because I know he's hyped. Jordan Mason might have finally jumped Elijah Mitchell. It might have happened. It happened today. We can definitively say that. It happened today. Again, I don't know if I covered it much, from Friday's practice, but Elijah Mitchell had a fumble in last Friday's practice. Not only did Elijah Mitchell have a fumble, but Jordan Mason was still running like Jordan Mason. We all know his running style: violent, one cut, downhill, and go. It's just how he moves. And everything is so sudden and urgent with JP. And so we got the fumble from Elijah Mitchell on Friday. They had a practice on Saturday. And from what we didn't see anything reported yesterday about this, but today There's no Christian McCaffrey. So the first running back to get a carry was Jordan Mason, and it was a nice run off the left side. And again, he just runs so well. And even Kyle Shanahan talked about it today and talked about Jordan Mason's running style. And he even said, like, no offense to or whatever to Elijah Mitchell, but JP is running well. And listen, we've documented Jordan Mason's rise from training camp since the very beginning. It was very apparent to see that when Jordan Mason was moving as a rookie in training camp, that he moved different. And it was something that we talked about. I remember that whole rookie training camp, I was banging the table like if the 49ers let Jordan Mason go, they will be making a massive mistake. Because at that particular time, they had just drafted TDP in the third round, and they were on year 2 of Trey Sermon, who they had also drafted in the third round, but they actually traded up for Trey Sermon. And that particular training camp, I was like, if they cut Jordan Mason, they will be making a mistake, a huge mistake. And guess what? They didn't. They cut Trey Sermon. And then the following season, they cut TDP. So Jordan Mason has made his, and not don't forget too, in that 2021 training camp, he also beat out a Jermichael Hasty who was having a hell of a camp. So Jordan Mason has now, if he solidifies his spot as RB2 for the San Francisco 49ers, this man has run the gauntlet on 49ers running backs outside of Christian McCaffrey. So you have to tip your cap. Though, like, I love those stories. And it's nothing against Elijah Mitchell. It's nothing against anyone else who came before him. But I'm a sucker for the underdog story. I'm a sucker for the undrafted free agent who beats out the 2 third-round draft picks. Then it appears he may have beaten out the rookie franchise leader in rushing yards in Elijah Mitchell. So Jordan Mason has taken incremental step after incremental step and proven he belongs, and he just continues to do it. So I'm happy for Jordan Mason. I, of course, want to see Elijah Mitchell have some success as well, because it takes a stable to get through a season. So it's not like I'm rooting for Elijah Mitchell. I want Elijah Mitchell to be a good runner for us. But you can tell there's just a different intensity that Jordan Mason runs with. It's just what it is. It's an urgency, it's an intensity, it's a violence, it's an, I don't know how else to explain it. Jordan Mason just runs different, and it feels like he's finally taking that jump. So we'll see how that continues to progress throughout training camp. We have a Cameron Latu sign. Like, we saw Cameron Latu, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! And it was a good rep by Cameron Latu. So I didn't see the play develop. I just saw Cameron Latu basically streaking over the middle on what to be an intermediate crosser. And I believe it was Brock Purdy put the ball on Latu in stride. And Latu, I was like so at first I didn't get a good look at the number. I saw the player catch it and then turn up field and kind of run up the right sideline, get some yak. And then the guy turns around and it's 81. It's Cameron Latu. And I was like, oh, there we go. Listen, Cameron Latu, for me, came into this training camp as a a bubble guy, as a guy who could potentially not be on this team when the final 53 man gets cut. And that's pretty tough when you're the 100th overall pick just one season ago. So the fact that he finally got an opportunity and it was a nice rep, that makes me happy for Latu because, as we know, as well documented, he's struggled quite a bit last year. So if he can start building some momentum, I would love to see that. I would love to see Latu continue to take steps and strides forward because he is in a battle right now. I think Braden Willis is a lock. Braden Willis ain't going anywhere. So, if the 49ers only keep 3 tight ends, he's battling with Eric Sauber, and Logan Thomas, I think directly. But then you had Mason Pline make a play today too. Mason Pline, don't sleep on Mason Pline. Mason Pline had a nice play down the left sideline for a big chunk yardage on a pass from Dobbs. It was probably 20 plus yards down the left sideline. He even showed a little bit of yak as well. So we got a sneaky good competition brewing on the back end of the tight end room. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like when it's all said and done. But so far, I like where it's headed, and I like to see Latu make a play. We'll get to the interceptions here in a minute. I want to go through some of the other plays. T.Y. McGill would have had a really good tackle for a loss. He got through in the backfield in a hurry. I would say that we have an intriguing, when we talk about competitions, I think we have an intriguing battle starting to percolate in the quarterback room. And no, it's not with the starting quarterback, thank goodness. But I think we got something here going between Joshua Dobbs and Brandon Allen. I think it was crystal clear that Brandon Allen was the more confident quarterback through the first block of training camp. It wasn't up for debate. It's just what it was. Dobbs looked, you could tell by his body language, he didn't feel confident in the decisions he was making, and that translated into his performance. Well, something's working for Dobbs. Something's working for Dobbs. Dobbs had 2 touchdowns today. He had a touchdown to Jauan Jennings, and he had a touchdown to Trent Taylor. And like I said, he hit a nice play to Mason Pline down the left sideline for a chunk gain. Dobbs is dobbing. He's dobbing him up. And I think where at first I was like, it looks like Brandon Allen has got a stranglehold on that quarterback too. Welcome to the party, Joshua Dobbs. The quarterback 2 position battle is officially open. Joshua Dobbs has walked in right through the front door, and I'm excited to see if he can win this one. I am, because he looked much better than he did prior. So Joshua Dobbs is gaining some steam for sure. All right. I saw someone talk about this in the chat. Let's get after it. Rookie DBs, hell yeah. So one of my favorite plays of the day, I'm going to go ahead and say it was my favorite play of the day because it was pretty solid execution all the way around, offensively and defensively. Believe it or not, you might be saying like, well, how does that happen? Well, the setup is it's red zone team period. Jauan Jennings off to the left side. It looks like he gets Renardo Green in what I can only imagine is one-on-one coverage. And from the looks of it, it was going to be a corner fade. So effectively, it's Jauan Jennings, who probably let me see, how tall is Jauan Jennings? Jauan Jennings is how tall are Jauan? 6'3". So Jauan Jennings is 6'3", going up against Renato Green, who's 6 foot. So Jennings got 3 inches on Renardo. And so in this instance, you have a situation where it's a jump ball. You got your big bodied, high point wide receiver, Jauan Jennings, physical guy, against the right sideline in the end zone, and Brock just delivers a dime. Again, we talk about it all the time. Being open in the NFL is much different than being open in college. You can be completely covered in the NFL, but if your quarterback throws you open by putting the ball in the right location, only where your guy can get it, that's how you make money in the NFL. So Renardo was in good coverage. He was in phase. He was in lockstep with Jauan, but you see Jauan elevate and you see him high point the ball at the highest point, which is why they call it high pointing. And in my head, I'm like, ooh, great touchdown. Great throw by Brock, great protection, great catch. And then Renardo Green said, nope. And he punched the ball out and created a PBU. And I was like, ooh, okay. It's like, okay, Renardo, let's go, dog. And the reason why I liked it so much too is because Renardo has been finding himself on Jauan Jennings quite a bit in team period. And Jauan's been winning those battles. Now, in these battles, Renardo Green is very close. He is in phase with Jauan. Now, Jauan against Renardo, it's low key like a center in the post. For the basketball players in the audience. In a lot of the instances, Jennings just posts up, right? Like kind of boxes you out, gets leverage where he gets in between the defender and the quarterback, and the quarterback just puts the ball on Jauan, and it doesn't matter where it is. Jauan's going to pluck it out of the air, right? He just needs to get the leverage. And so he has been winning against Renardo in that scenario. I think of a play that happened last week where Renardo goes to like make a PBU, but kind of goes up top and around. And Jennings just kind of whips Renardo off, and Renardo just kind of flips off of Jennings. And you're like, ooh, but that was like the second or third rep that Jennings had won against Renardo on that day. It's like, oh, we got some building a little bit. Well, today felt like a little bit of a redemption for Renardo Green to be able to get that PBU. I thought it was a great play. And again, it was a great ball. It was a great catch, but it was a better effort by Renardo Green to break that pass up. And when you see your second round draft pick make him start to make some plays in training camp, gets you excited. So that's a touchdown saver right there. That's a touchdown saver. We need more of those. We need more of those for sure. All right. Let's get into the interceptions, I guess. I think it's time. I think we've finally gotten to the point where we can talk about Brock Purdy's 3 interceptions on the day. And we had one pass that sailed as well. So the biggest thing that I think we have developing with Brock is just being able to connect on the deep pass with a little bit more consistency. It feels like in some of the instances, whether Brock has a clean pocket or not clean pocket, the timing on the deep ball just isn't. It's still something that he is trying, at least that's what it seems like. He's trying to get it down. Now, for the most part, with what we've seen of Brock's deep ball, is that it's not shy of power. He is overthrowing these guys. He's not underthrowing them. So, like this one with Debo's probably running in the range of 40 yards downfield. The ball probably sailed about 5 to 10 yards over Debo's head. So my biggest critique of Brock, the things that I want to start to see evolving in his game as we see training camp starting to develop, is that gap become shorter. Listen, I don't expect him to be perfect on every deep ball. That's not my current expectation. What I just want to see from Brock is for him to close the gap in between. Effectively, what I'm looking for is a catchable deep ball. I don't need it to be perfect just yet. I just want to see the wide receiver have an opportunity to make a play on the ball. And as it stands right now, we're still working through that. So that's one Brock critique that I have of early training camp. Am I concerned about it? No. It's the same process almost in which we've talked about, not only with Brock in last year's training camp, but we talked about Brock in season. When Brock is able to get into more of a rhythm and he's able to get his timing down with his wide receivers and he can get into kind of a flow state, that's when I think we'll see Brock start hitting more on deep balls, but we just haven't seen it yet. So that is an honest evaluation of Brock up until this point, at least on the deep ball passes that I have seen. When it comes to the 3 interceptions, that is the big headline of the day, right? Brock throws 3 interceptions. I saw some of the aggregate accounts, running with it. Brock throws 3 interceptions today. I remember seeing, I think over the weekend, one of the aggregate accounts posted, Josh Allen throws 3 interceptions at training camp. Normalize throwing freaking interceptions in training camp in the sense of it's not the end of the world. Of course, nobody wants to see a quarterback turn the ball over. But my God, there has to be some middle ground. There has to be somewhere in the middle where we can have actual football discourse about what these are. So I'm going to do my best to break down what I saw from Brock Purdy's 3 training camp interceptions today, why I am, again, less concerned than maybe some others are. If I'm concerned about something, I'm honest with you. Like, I'll tell you I'm concerned. I do recognize that I have more of a leash when it comes to allowing players to develop and get to a place before I start sounding the alarm. But I watched today's interceptions. Although, could they have been better throws in some instances? Could we have some better decisions? Yes. But am I concerned like the sky is falling? Absolutely not. So let's talk about the 3 interceptions that we saw today. I'm going to go from the first one to the last one that I saw. So, starting with the first interception. Okay, so this is the one that we actually have video on. This is the one that the 49ers posted. They don't show the full thing develop, but what you see is the ball hitting Logan Thomas in the chest, and the ball pops up and Fred Warner is able to get an interception. What you don't see before the interception is that this was effectively. I'm having a trouble trying to quantify it because there were coverage sack elements. Effectively, Brock was sitting in the pocket, scanning, 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 scanning. Nothing was open. My internal clock, in the NFL, you have on average 2.5 seconds to get the ball out of your hands before you get sacked. So in my internal clock, we were well beyond 2.5 seconds. So I don't know if any of you guys have had experience with 7-on-7 tournaments or things like that where they use the timer instead of a pass rush. You have a certain amount of time. So my timer went off. I'm like, okay, he's held the ball far too long. We're like bordering, you know, 3.5, 4.5 seconds here. Brock holding the ball. My mind triggers coverage sack. Now he was still able to escape out of the pocket to the left, which you can kind of see the angle of the throw is coming back in towards the middle of the defense. If you slow down this video more, you'll be able to see it's coming from the left back into the middle. And from my particular vantage point, I saw it hit Logan Thomas in the chest. Now, based on this video, it looks like Isaac Yiadom was very, very close in coverage. So there is a potential he maybe got his hand in between the chest and the ball. It was hard to see from my vantage point. But from what I saw, it hit Logan directly in the numbers from an accuracy standpoint. So, from an accuracy standpoint, considering it was a congested area, it looked like Brock put it right on his numbers, literally. Now, if Isaac Yiadom got his hand in there, that obviously changes a bit of the context. But from what I've seen, Brock gets outside the pocket, sets his hip, fires, hits Logan Thomas in the number, ball pops up, Fred Warner intercepts it. Phenomenal play by the defense all around. Again, the fact that Brock had to bail out of the pocket, again, it's kind of like what I've talked about. The offensive line didn't look terrible, didn't look great, didn't look terrible, but like in this instance, he had enough time to just kind of sit back there. But again, the internal clock, it was far beyond. So that's why once we in training camp, we go beyond like that 2.5 seconds. I'm kind of like, all right, we're in coverage sack zone. So that's kind of my context behind this particular play. So this one, again, the context is I'm going to give a point to the coverage to begin with because he couldn't find anything open. But when he did find Thomas, he put it on Thomas. It was on him. But Thomas wasn't able to bring in the catch, and you get a pop-up and a interception. So more fluky of an interception than just like a poor read, poor throw, poor timing. Right? That's where the context comes in. The other context that I have for his second interception was so I didn't get the best look at the route that I believe this pass was intended for Braden Willis because I was trying to watch the pocket around Brock. I was trying to do my best to see how the offensive line was operating on this particular play. And so I could see the pocket collapse very quickly on Brock. Like it really kind of just shut down fast. And you had Yetur Gross Matos, who was pushing Jalen Moore into the quarterback. It was kind of collapsing from like the tackles, is what it felt like. And from my vantage point, I saw Brock go, we've seen the back foot throws where he can't step into the throw. He's got to kind of like rotate off his back leg at an angle and kind of through it. And so it's an intermediate crosser to Braden Willis. And based on where I was, I couldn't see the depth of where the ball placement was. I could just see where it was intended. And then I just see Diamador Lenore start running the other direction with the interception. So the context of this particular play, in my opinion, was he was about to get sacked. The pocket was collapsing on him, and he threw off his back foot. I don't necessarily think those are the type of throws that Brock Purdy makes in games. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces of context when it comes to training camp is Brock is told to always throw the football, whether it's there, whether it's not there, whether he's been sacked, whether the play has been disrupted. You always throw the football because guess what? The defense and the wide receiver need work too. This isn't just to let Brock figure it out. So if he gets sacked, he's taught to let it go. He's taught to throw that pass. Take your chances now. So when I see these things, again, I don't necessarily believe this is what Brock is doing in a real game setting. And again, that brings back to the importance of we're talking about practice. This is where this happens. This is where you work through these things. And that's why I cannot stand the reporting of training camp interceptions with a zero lick of context. It is the most fool's errand thing imaginable because all it does is incite panic, which some people do want, but it doesn't present what's happening. So I think the context of it matters. I think it was a phenomenal play by Diamador. I want to make that very clear. Good play by Diamador. Good play by the defensive line to collapse the pocket. Brock throws off his back foot, gets intercepted. That's not a throw you want to see from Brock in a game setting. However, in practice, I have less of a problem with it because it's practice. So it doesn't make sense for Brock to take a sack, kill the play, no one gets any work. It makes much more sense for him to let that thing fly. And that's exactly what he did. Got picked by Diamador Lenore. So obviously that play was impacted by the pressure. And then the next one on George Odom was a similar one where it just felt like the coverage was on lock. And then Brock just bailed out of the pocket because nothing was there. The internal clock is going. The internal clock has it as like ding coverage sack, right? So that's what it felt like. It was like he's in the pocket, ding. I should be sacked by now. And so he bails out to the left and he just forces a ball that George Odom makes a phenomenal play on. Definitely a forced throw, but a better play by George Odom to get the interception. So those are the three interceptions. Honestly, when I look at them from the perspective in which I saw them, am I concerned about Brock throwing intercept? No, I'm not. Not in these these particular instances. Now, you want to see Brock Purdy be a little bit more accurate on his deep throws, find a little bit more consistency on those. And of course, you want to see Brock take care of the football. But I've already explained what Brock is trained to do in scenarios where plays break down. So I am less concerned about the context in which I've seen these interceptions. We're having a different conversation if Brock is taking a 3-step drop, plant foot in the ground, making throws and throwing interceptions to underneath defenders that were just standing in the middle of the field. He didn't even see them. That's a different context, right? We're having a different conversation if Brock Purdy's not seeing underneath linebackers. But that's not the conversation we're having. So, all of these things with Brock today, it was more of an offensive issue than I would say a Brock issue. And again, take a step back. No Trent Williams, no George Kittle, no Brendel, Feliciano, Burford, no did I say I'm already forgetting all the names that I mentioned? Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Aiyuk. Did I mention them? Let me do that again. Brandon Aiyuk, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Jake Brendel, Feliciano, Burford, Pearsall didn't participate in 11 on 11s. What other starters were missing out of the 49? I'm not good at counting, but those are 8 pretty important players to the 49ers offense. So when two things can be true. Two things can be true. Defense looks like it's not necessarily directly related to those guys not being there, which of course it always will be. You don't have your stars out there. The play is going to be different. But the defense just looks like they're in the correct spot. They're in the right positioning to make the plays. Defense feels like they're much better suited. And I can't wait to see what this looks like in preseason when we get into like some actual live action. But again, I don't also want to take away from the defense. The defense balled today. Our cornerbacks, our coverage makes me happy with what we're seeing from our coverage unit. We're getting pressure on the interior. Our linebackers are flying all over the field. This is a good place to be in. This is how you get better. This is how championship teams get better with these types of things. So, all of that being said, I think that you want to see the offensive play. You want to see the offense play better. It's not up for debate. But I also do think it's good work for Brock. You know, for all the stuff that we've heard about, oh, Brock's just a product of the system and the weapons and all those types of things. I think it's good practice for him to not have those things at his disposal and be like, hey, this is what it could look like. No, your whole starting offensive line's down. Your top 3 potential offensive weapons are down. Let's see how you do. But I don't feel like I've talked about him enough, and I should talk about him more, but it feels like Deebo Samuel needs a lot of credit for the work that he's put in. When we talk about guys not being out there at practice, you know, Kittle definitely coming back at his own pace, and CMC being used sparingly. Debo's out there every play, not every play, but he is out there. He's not taking reps off, and he's making plays. Debo, I thought, had one of the sickest catches of the day in the back of the end zone. It was one of the more funnier coverage sacks of Brock Purdy on the day because he scrambled out of the pocket. Then he scrambled so. I'm trying to set the scene. You have offense and defensive line at the line of scrimmage, right? And then behind the offense, you just have all the players standing with the coaches. Brock ran into the players and then just threw the ball up to the back of the end zone. Now it went to the perfect location, only to where Debo could get it. Debo high pointed it in the back of the end zone. I didn't see if he got his feet in, but again, it was one of those plays. Ding, coverage sack. He just held the ball too long, ran around, threw the ball. It was a nice ball. Debo high pointed it. It was a great catch. Don't know if it counted. But yeah, Debo's been balling, man. Debo also made a really good catch, a contested catch with Taylor Hawkins wrapped around his neck. That was another good catch. So Debo's been having a time. Debo's been having a good training camp for sure. So that's good. Someone who's been quietly having a good training camp is Trent Taylor. Trent Taylor had a touchdown today. I haven't seen him drop a pass. Everything that he's brought in has been a difficult catches he's had to make. And he's also in line to potentially be the starting punt returner. So I think Trent Taylor has a uphill battle making this roster, but Trent Taylor's having all things considered, he's making the most of every one of his opportunities. What does that mean for the long run? That remains to be seen. But I think it is important to note that Trent Taylor looks reliable. And that's half the battle in the NFL is you got to be reliable. So we'll see what that looks like and what that comes to fruition like in the season. But Trent, welcome back, man. Looking good. Oh, the biggest pancake of the day. We had, oh my goodness, it was the best football play that we've gotten of, in the trenches. I can't pronounce his last name. His name's Sam. He's a defensive lineman for the 49ers, Okuyama or something like that. I apologize for just absolutely butchering his name. I need it spelled phonetically so that I could pronounce it correctly. But regardless of how to pronounce his name, he decleated Brandon Parker. Absolutely took Brandon Parker and parked him on his rear. It was beautiful. Straight bull rush. I mean, he decleated Brandon Parker, who was playing left tackle. Not a great sign for number 75, but a great sign for number 91. 91 went crazy. And he you talk about pancake. And it's the defensive line isn't supposed to be pancaking the offensive line, but it happened. And boy, he ended up on his back like a turtle. Great play by 91. 75, not so much. So every day that we're out there is every day that Trent Williams justifies how much he deserves to get paid. Man, it's tough, man. I totally get it. You got to pay Trent because yeah. We need Trent. Oh boy, do we need Trent. We need Trent really bad. So, and again, no Bosa on the day. No Bosa out there. But I'm really excited about this defense. I'm really liking the combination of Lenore has arrived. Like I feel like we all know this, but Lenore has arrived. He's here. He's that guy, pal. He is one of the top corners in the league, and I don't think it's up for debate anymore. And I think we'll see it come to fruition this season, just like we saw with Mooney Ward last year. But Lenore is a dog. Ward is a dog. It looks like Isaac Yadam got some dog in him, and Renardo Green got some dog in him. We got some dogs at the cornerback position. It's been a while, man. It has been a while, and I'm hyped off what we have. Womack looks good in spots too. I haven't seen a whole lot from Darrell Luter Jr., but I also haven't necessarily been looking for him specifically. But from what I've seen from like our top guys, I feel really good at cornerback. Obviously, Malik Mustafa's been doing well. Jair Brown's been doing well. We might finally have a marriage of rush and coverage. We've actually seen Demo both outside and inside. Like on the particular play where Renardo Green got the pass breakup on Jauan Jennings, Renardo was on the outside. And if I'm not mistaken, Demo was in the nickel. So they're experimenting with Renardo Green playing outside corner and Diamondo Lenore in the nickel. And remember, this was a red zone period. So this was high stakes on, 10 yards out from the end zone. And you got rookie Renardo Green playing outside on, what likely would have been the Super Bowl MVP. And he's creating PBUs. And we know they like Renardo at nickel as well. But the fact he's making plays on the outside, and I'm curious. I'm curious if the 49ers like, you know what? Renardo's better suited as an outside corner. And because Renardo might be better suited as an outside corner, that gives them the flexibility to put Demo in the nickel. And we could see a similar situation like we saw last year, where in base down on defense, when they go 4-3, you have Ward Lenore in base, and when they go to nickel, Ward kick or not Ward, Demo kicks inside the nickel. Renardo or Yadam potentially goes to the outside. So I think they're messing with it. They're messing with the rotation. So, but it's a good thing in my opinion. Like it's a good problem to have. They're trying to figure out where everyone fits best. And I like it, man. I like where we're at. I like where we're at defensively. Offensively, not so much. But defensively, hell yeah. Defensively, where I had my concerns, much less concerned with the offense, they just need the bodies, man. They just need their boys out. You need your best players. Oh, you're missing 7 to 8 starters. Why isn't the offense looking so good? Well, you're missing 7 to 8 starters. You're rocking third string centers with your first team. You're rocking rookies at right guard. You're rocking backup left tackles. It's going to be a little disjointed. So with the offense, I expect them to catch up. It might take some time. I would imagine offense starts getting in a groove at joint practices. That's where I'm pinpointing where I think the offense will really start to churn a little bit better. So we'll see. Is it me or does Brandon look like he wants to participate? I've talked about this since Brandon Aiyuk has showed up to training camp. Brandon Aiyuk is a baller. Like I feel like people forget like who Brandon is because of this kind of off-season drama stuff. But behind it all, this dude is a ball player. Like at his core, Brandon Aiyuk is a ball player. He's not a businessman. He's not a podcaster. This dude wants to step foot on the field and go scrap. That's who BA is. So I would have to imagine, understanding football, the psychology of football players playing with so many, I've had so many different teammates over the years that I know how guys feel when they are at the top and the best at their position and they love the game and they can't play. It tears them up on the inside. So I do agree that Brandon Aiyuk wants to play. I guarantee you him being on the sideline is killing him because Brandon Aiyuk has taken pride in how he has played throughout training camp the past 2 seasons. That's why he's been the best player in training camp the past 2 years because he takes pride in it. Now, because he's not out there, no, he's got the itch. Like I said, I can't confirm, but I believe on Friday he was out on the jugs machine. I can't confirm. Can't confirm because I was really far away, but it looked like him. Had the shut F7, his same helmet, same dreads popping out the back, didn't have a jersey on. And it was after practice, after other guys had came off and already done jugs machine. It looked like BA to me. Now again, can't confirm because I was like 200 yards away, but to me it looked like BA working the jugs machine. I think BA wants to be out there. I don't think BA wants to be doing what he's doing right now. And so hopefully I think that's kind of where we're all at with the BA and Trent situation. We just want to get this done. We want to get it put behind us so we can focus on ball. But again, it's a business first sometimes in this league. And it's definitely shifting more towards that each and every year that we, they bring in more money and all those different types of things. It's a business. We can't forget that. It just stinks when we have to talk about the business when all we want to talk about is the football. So hopefully we can get it done soon. Hopefully we can get it done soon. He's under contract. Why isn't he participating? Because he's trying to get a new contract. You're not going to go out there and tear your ACL and then not get your contract. It's not worth it. Rick did not participate in team from what I saw today. Is BA talking to Lynch in person every day? For the most part, it seems like we've seen them kind of chopping it up on the sidelines a little bit. I didn't see anything today specifically. So overall, though, good, much better day for the defense. Offense, like I said, kind of felt like they had one arm time behind their back with all the guys that were out. I thought Purdy looked solid. I don't think he looked great. I don't think he looked bad. I think he looked solid. I think all things considered from what we saw, and again, also from my vantage point, they were playing on the far field today, so it makes it harder to lock in on the trenches when they are on the far field. But most that I saw of Purdy is he was holding his own. He was doing well in pass protection. So that's a good sign for sure. So I would say first impression, solid, right? Not great, not perfect, solid. Didn't win every rep, but that's to be expected. So first impression, solid. That's my take. So that's what we got from training camp today. I appreciate everyone who has been following along and continues to tap in with my updates and training camp reports and all those different types of things. Again, it means a lot to me because I know there are so many options for you guys. So making me a part of your training camp rotation makes me feel appreciated, and I thank you guys. Just doing that is awesome. So I will continue. I'll be back at training camp tomorrow. I don't know if there will be having pads on or not, but we'll let you know. We'll let you know for sure. If I go live tomorrow, I will probably around this time, around 3 or 4. All that good stuff. All that good stuff. So appreciate everyone. Appreciate the SDS. Smash that like button. Don't panic. We're talking about practice, baby. Appreciate y'all. Grab your cookies on the way out. I'm out. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see you.